If you thought about investing, I know after you saw that, you can't wait. Don't rush out in the hallway and call your stockholders and say, I need about $10 billion to put in Mississippi. Well, if you're going to do that, go ahead. But I'm telling you, is what you've just seen on the screen is, in fact, the future of Mississippi. It is the present in Mississippi. And so this energy summit today is going to be fast, but I think you're going to gather information that you perhaps will not know. Some will surprise you. I hope some will encourage you. What I'm going to do, just real briefly, and I'm going to try to go through it as quickly as I can, a PowerPoint presentation we put together to show you is IOGCC chairman. I know that's kind of a mouthful. There's a lot of GOCCs in there, Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission, and as former chairman of the Southern States Energy Board, we've been looking at a national and international level of energy. And that is so important for those of us here in this state. To be selected as chairman of both Southern States and IOGCC and is such an honor, not just for me, which of course it is individually, but for the state of Mississippi. As you look at the other states that have been involved in this process throughout time, Texas, Oklahoma, California, tremendous opportunities as we were meeting there, but Mississippi has helped leading the way. And we will show you today, and you will hear from the chancellors and presidents of our research universities. A key component, I see some young folks that are here today that are poised to be the leaders in energy, innovation, and production, and research and development into the future. And so that's where we must carry on the tradition, making this generational so that one generation passes on to the next the ability to not only produce but to sustain energy for generations to come. And we believe that we can do so. So let me make sure I can get this thing started this morning. It worked. Energy is the lifeblood of our country and the soul of our economic development. It is the lifeblood of this country. Now, there were times, and we'll show you a quote from Ronald Reagan towards the end, where we thought America will no longer be energy independent. We'll have to depend on countries that don't like us very much. Countries that will hold us hostage, not only that did so physically, but financially, physically into the future. We are free of that. But it is the lifeblood of the economy in America, and certainly here in the state of Mississippi, and you'll hear more about that later. Let's look at where we're going into the future energy consumption. Look at China, the emerging middle class, and of course what every emerging middle class wants. Well, they want automobiles. They want a warm home. They want air conditioning. They want all the things that we wanted when I was a small boy in Morehead, Mississippi. There's a special moment, young folks, when that air conditioner comes on for the first time. I can remember it still. We all gathered around it in amazement. Ooh, look at that. It's cool. But of course, it took electricity to generate that cool and comfortable environment there. And so now China and India, that emerging middle class, are saying we want more. In fact, the energy consumption will rise 56% across the world. What does that mean for America, for the United States? We're going to export energy. That's exactly what we're going to do. Once we gain energy independence, we're going to be an exporter. World energy consumption, again, fossil fuels account for 80% of the world energy. Y'all remember a few years ago, and it seems short. Now, I'm getting older, but it doesn't seem like that long ago until people said, well, you know, the fossil fuel's gone. It won't last another 20 years. That was probably back in the 70s when I was driving a Chevrolet Vega. Remember those? Pintos, Vegas. Yeah, they had a soaking best. We were waiting in line to get gasoline. You could only get it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they said, well, because it's almost all gone, it won't last much longer. And they had us believing that we were going to have to drive electric cars, and we were going to have to, I'm not sure what we thought we were going to do, get on bicycles and that type of thing. Well, now, of course, we know that fossil fuel still accounts for 80% of it. Natural gas, most rapidly growing fossil fuel, almost 2% a year. Look at the liquids, coal, natural gas, renewables is down there. Certainly, we're excited about that. Now, we think Mississippi is the state for the future in renewables, particularly when you look at cellulose products like pine trees. I used to tell people, y'all have heard me say it, I would tell them if you could ever make gasoline out of pine trees, we're your state. We're doing it. We're there. Exciting natural resources, and of course nuclear, one of the most successful nuclear power plants in Port Gibson, Mississippi in North America. Here's one of the most exciting things I've seen. We in the United States are leading the world in oil and natural gas productions. We just surpassed Russia and Saudi Arabia. Now, I can assure you, if you went into any high school today and most colleges and say, what nation in the world leads in oil and gas production, what would they say? Saudi Arabia. They'd think maybe Iran or Iraq. It's sure, the Middle East. It's America. It's the United States of America. And that's a source of pride. And this has just happened recently, and I say recently in the last decade. We are leading the world in natural gas and oil production, largely because of the new technologies. Now, we never dreamed that technology was the key to energy independence. We just thought oil wells, you poke a hole in the ground, somehow you use pressure, you get it out, you get it to a refinery. We don't have enough of those. But little did we realize that hydraulic fracturing, horizontal drilling, CEO, enhanced oil recovery, all of those technologies were going to make us independent and free of energy concerns in America. Look at where we're at. States all across the United States are leading this revolution. This is the lower 48 states. And if I had a little pointer on here, I hate to push another button, but if I had a little laser, you can see right there in Mississippi our Tuscaloosa shale play. A lot of you, I know we talked last night in the mansion, a lot of you are involved in that. A lot of you want to be. I want every one of you to be involved in it. I think it's going to be a huge opportunity for us. And this economy expands so much. As I was down in Amite County in Liberty, Mississippi not long ago at a catfish fry, but I stopped at a convenience store and they were all on these F-150 pickup trucks parked everywhere, and all the guys that are working in the oil field were in there getting lunch. And the owner was just as happy as she could be. She said, "Oh, this happens every day." Now that's the economy, and I don't know who sold them all those F-150s, but I hope it was a Mississippi dealer. You see how that works? That expansion of this energy economy that takes place each and every day in Mississippi and across the United States. Now you see California, bless their hearts. Bless their heart. They got a great play out there. I was talking to a group of people with the energy department. They have a small energy regulatory department, as you can imagine, in California. It's about 3,000 people that work in that to make sure that nobody spills a quart of oil. They rush out there and clean it up. But they were talking about how woefully concerned they were, because if they could just tap into the energy that they had there, the deposits that were available to them would be revolutionary for the state of California, which owes about $30 billion right now. And the environmentalists won't allow them to do that. The regulatory process there just won't allow them to go and exercise the freedom that they should have, as we have in Mississippi, to be able to go out and safely and securely gather that energy, put their people to work in California. Well, that's okay. That's the way they want to be. We'll just take it right here in Mississippi and show them how Tuscaloosa Marine Shell is getting lots of attention. 426,000 barrels of oil since September. That's measured at September. So if you think about it, we're probably reaching 500 million barrels of oil. Am I right with those numbers, Patrick? About 500 million barrels of oil, coming close to that in the Tuscaloosa shale play in Mississippi. Expect companies to invest over that's $500 million in Mississippi next year. Now, if anybody wonders why we're having this meeting, that's it. $500 million investment. You just don't get that every day. Well, we've been getting more of it than we expected. Our severance tax legislation, I'm going to show you something remarkable. Legislators are here. I'm going to ask them to stand. Because 2013 was going to be our education summit. It was going to be our session for education, and we did. I think we had transformational change in education. But at the same time, we passed 9. I wish it had been 10. I love those round numbers. But 9 of the most progressive pieces of legislation in oil and gas in the nation. I would dare say most governors would say, if I just got that passed in 4 years, I'd be happy. We did it in one session. One session. While balancing the budget, putting money in the rainy day fund, and transformational changes in education. Oh yeah, by the way, we passed the most comprehensive legislative package to enhance oil and gas recovery in the nation. Mississippi helped us so much with that. Mississippi legislature will show you how. Fraser Institute has us ranked number 2 in the nation for the best place in the world. Best place in the world to invest in oil and gas. Now, I'll have to tell you, full disclosure, we weren't number 1. Rascals from Oklahoma. Mary Fallon said, look, we just can't. It was shockwave, went through Texas and Oklahoma and all across the nation. We were number 1. I can tell you, I was there. She was the Southern States Energy Board chairman before I came in. And she had to get to the podium in her hometown in Oklahoma and admit that Mississippi was number 1. Now, I would dare say she probably called in her folks and said, we got to fix that. We got to do something. I will tell you, these statistics were, the Fraser Institute produced these statistics before last year's legislative session. So I would dare say with Tuscaloosa Shale Play, what we're doing in energy throughout the spectrum, I hope we'll move to that number 1. But you know what I bet? I bet there's about 48 chiefs of staff somewhere that are in their governor's office having to explain why they're below Oklahoma and Mississippi. And that's not a pleasant moment, as my chief of staff can tell you. We're right up there at the top. Improving energy efficiency. Now, I was raised to be energy efficient. Most of you were. What would our dad say? Turn that light off. Yeah, you could not leave the room and leave the light on. It was just some kind of fanatic rule that he had. And bad things happen if you just, because he said, I'm paying for that. So I understood what efficiency meant. And so we said, look, we were at the bottom. We were below, I think, we were below the District of Columbia. We were like 52. And I thought, how can we be 52? Well, District of Columbia. We got to do something about that. We started an energy efficiency program in the state of Mississippi. And if you look, ranked most improved state in energy efficient by the American Council for Energy Efficiency Economy. We were the most improved of any other state in the nation. Now, I like those type of trends. Now, we're not where we want to be, and we're going to do a better job of it. And I'll show you in a little bit with some legislation why we do that. Here's the 9 pieces, real quickly. Severance tax reduction on horizontal drilling. As we started horizontal drilling, I desperately was trying to understand how we might be able to incentivize the production through horizontal drilling, particularly in the Tuscaloosa shale play. And I knew Mississippi couldn't incentivize on the front end because this is sort of a, well, it's not a certain type of industry that we normally incentivize. It's speculative at best. And so I said, well, what about the backside? So what we did was reduce severance tax to 1.30% for oil and gas from horizontal drilling for 30 months or the payout of the well. Now, I believe we're the only state in the nation that has done that. We have cut it to 1.3% until you get your major investment in, until you get your well paid out, or for the first 30 months. It's kind of a severance tax holiday. Happy holidays. And so all of a sudden people start flooding into the state. This piece of legislation was passed by a Democratic chairman in the House of Representatives and had overwhelming support on both sides of the aisle in both houses. And I signed it into law just as quickly as I could. HB 841, electric tax reduction for CO2 enhanced oil recovery. So we said, if you're going to use electricity, we're going to decrease the sales tax paid on electricity for the use or production of CO2 for enhanced oil recovery by 1.5%. I learned this from a guy named Ronald Reagan. He said, if you cut taxes on things, those things will grow. Those products will sell more. That service will be offered more often. And so I'd rather get 1.5% of a large piece of pie than I had zero of nothing. That doesn't help us at all. So that's why we moved alternative fuel revolving loan fund, compressed natural gas. The natural gas industry in Mississippi is growing like it is in every state. We have a tremendous opportunity here to build an infrastructure. So we've said to municipalities and school districts, you can borrow at 0% if you want to convert your school buses to natural gas. And so we've got school districts out there taking opportunities of that zero loan so we can get to that conversion process. We're putting in commercial distribution centers for liquefied and compressed natural gas. Why? Because it's about 90 cents a gallon if you have the right system. Now, obviously, the conversion of vehicles now is still in the infancy. We're working hard on it. 16 of us governors wrote letters to the automobile manufacturers and truck manufacturers and said, we wish you would manufacture a vehicle so that we could immediately put it into the system, into a natural gas fuel system, and they're doing so. So alternative fuel loans for schools, I guess, and again, municipalities. We also have an energy infrastructure revolving loan fund, Senate Bill 2564. The Senate got into this system, helped us a great deal, allow local governments to borrow low-interest loans, upgrade energy infrastructure, going for economic development. So if you've got a manufacturer coming in and you've got to put in a new transmission line, you've got to put in a new gas line, we are going to loan you the money to do that if you're a municipality or a county. A lot of municipalities, Mayor McComb is here today, they just don't have that money available for this infrastructure for the new industries that are coming to Mississippi that are flooding into this state. And so we said we're going to make a loan to you so you can do that, because we move quickly around here. You can't hesitate in economic development. Look, I have to compete in the SEC. Now think about that. I got the governors from Florida. I got Rick Perry over there in Texas, Bobby Jindal. And now Missouri thinks they're in the SEC, so I got to compete with them. Because the growth pattern's in the South. Everyone's coming to the South. So I'm competing with Nikki Haley in South Carolina, now Pat McCrory of North Carolina. This is a tough, competitive world. It's cooperation that we have. Cooperation. Now, I love Dr. Bentley over in Alabama, but if we get to compete and we want to win, asking him about Yokohama Tire Company, he's still mad about that. He's my dearest friend, but it is a competition that we have, and Mississippi has to be ahead. Energy Sustainability and Development Act, again, for sustaining electricity, mandates state agencies work with DFA and MDA to develop energy management systems. We want to make sure that we have a sustainable, efficient system in Mississippi. What good is it for us to lead in our manufacturing and production if we're going to waste it? I hate that. My dad, as I said, it's in my DNA. So we're going to make sure that we have energy efficiency standards for commercial buildings. And we called in the builders. We called in those that are in commercial manufacturing and building and said we want to set some pretty strict standards. And I don't like to put burdens on builders, but this is important for us. And they said we're in. We believe it's so important to make sure that we have efficiency and energy that we are able to adopt those standards, Commercial Building Code, Smart Business Act, and allow corporations to partner with IHL Research Institute. As I said earlier, you'll see the presidents here today from our 4 research universities. So we're trying to reach out to all of you in the oil and gas industry and say, please use our universities for your research and development. I talk to companies that are here in Mississippi that have research opportunities that would be a perfect fit with our institution. And they're using somebody in Indiana, California, or Pennsylvania because they always have. Come here. Bring it here. We're going to incentivize you to do that. We're going to cut your taxes if you come and use our universities for your research and development. Elimination of electricity tax and manufacturing process. I love this one. If you have a tax on your electricity, which we did in the past for the use of any type of manufacturing in the state of Mississippi, we did away with that. Now think about that. So you're a manufacturer and you're sitting there saying, well, I can go to South Carolina or Texas or Mississippi, but you know, I have a large electric bill and I have to pay that, and the tax on that is pretty difficult as well, but you know, Mississippi eliminated that. So I can go there and not pay taxes on electricity. That's why I believe that we're in the top 5 for advanced manufacturing in the nation. Mississippi's in the top 5 for advanced manufacturing. Because of the 9 bills that we passed, we are moving ahead of many states with these smart types of business acts. The elimination of electrical tax and manufacturing process, we talked about that. Enhanced building codes for state-owned buildings, we got to lead the way. I live in a building that was built in 1848. It's not a manufactured home, but it is government housing. It was built in 1848. Let me tell you, the efficiency, energy efficiency in that was horrible. It was off the charts. And so we worked really hard recently as we were going about restoring that beautiful old mansion in 1848, the second oldest executive mansion in the United States of America, only behind Virginia, that was built by a guy named Thomas Jefferson. And so we're going to save energy. Our buildings must come forward in Mississippi and tell us how they're going to sustain energy, how we make sure that we're energy efficient in the state. I believe we can save millions of dollars each year by just some simple applications of efficiency standards, and we're doing that. These 9 pieces of legislation have done remarkable things in Mississippi. What do states need to do? States know what's best. States know what's best. Nobody loves our air, our land, our water more than we do. So anybody from Washington that comes in and says, you know, I need to go down there and protect Mississippi's environment, really? They're more concerned about it than we are. No, you got to understand Mississippians. Now, this is fighting material here. We are going to protect our land, our land from any product that would be dangerous to that. It's not dangerous to it, but any product that we think might harm the environment. And I know your industry is just determined to do that. The last person in the world that wants to have an incident that might affect the environment is who? You and your company. Why? Well, it costs you money. Of course it does. Again, we know best. We understand how to come in and make sure that we're permitting properly. A DEQ, Trudy Fisher's here this morning, make sure that we have our safety environmental regulations in place to protect that. We know what we're doing. We know better than people. States are incubators for regulatory innovation. Absolutely. Talk to California about their regulations. We are innovators in that. We know how to go about making sure we protect the environment, at the same time have a marketplace where people can thrive, energy can be produced and recovered and transported. State permitting is safe, effective, and timely. Absolutely. Permitting, permitting, permitting. Now, it's not very sexy. It doesn't grab your attention. It's not something I can put up on the screen and wow you with it. But permitting is so important in this business. And I think we do a better job of it than most any other state in the nation. And that's why we've been successful. We have a voice in energy development. National Governors Association is very determined that we do that. President Ronald Reagan. Now, if you remember back, take you back those old enough to, like I am, when I was trying to go off to college in that Vega. And President Reagan had just come out of the great malaise, and he said the energy problem is a crisis now. It was a crisis in 1980. Remember, we called it the energy crisis. There was going to be no more oil and natural gas. We were all going to have to drive these different kind of vehicles that somehow ran off of, I don't know, sunlight. But it came to be an historic opportunity to free America forever from dependence and unstable foreign oil that can be turned off and on at will. We still live in those times. But I think President Reagan's vision has been achieved. It took some time, but we are energy independent in America. North America in particular, with our partners in Canada and Mexico, the opportunities that exist now for job creation, to move this economy forward like never before, for job, again, to put our young folks that are here today to work in an industry that has created jobs that pay higher than the average segment of the economy in the state of Mississippi and around the world. Now, President Reagan understood in 1974 when he made this that world commerce and economic blackmail and coercion could be used because of energy or the lack thereof. We have been able to achieve great things, and part of it is America's energy independence, and you have been a part of that. I want to thank you for being here today. I hope you learn as much as I know I will today about this industry. We want to thank you for being a part of it. Mississippi is your energy home, and we invite you to come home. Thank you so much. Thank you.